Well, hello, everyone. It's your girl, Gabrielle. Yay. Welcome to a brand new episode of Hot Topics. If you are new to this shindig, let me tell you. Okay. If let me tell you what the show is about if you are new to this little shindig. So this is the show where we like to have them real conversations. We like to take that kitchen table talk and we like to put it all out in the open, all for the purpose of education. So we tend to focus on things with maybe jobs or disabilities or um, anything pertaining to families. So we cover a lot of different ground here, and today is no different. So today, not only do we have a repeat topic, but we have our repeat guest. So let's get right into it. So today's topic is relationships part two. So we had a prior conversation about relationships. Now we are bringing it back and we're continuing this conversation about relationships. So that is awesome. I love it when topics repeat. I love it when we continue to talk because that means that there is so much more to say. So I am looking forward to continuing this discussion. And I have a repeat guest. I think he has come on the show the most number of times compared to all my other guests. So, I think he just likes the hot seat. He likes getting burned. So we have brought him back again, and his name is Shane Thrapp. And I'm sure you already know about him, but I'm just going to remind you about who he is. So let's get right to it. Who is Shane Thrapp? Let me tell you who he is. So Shane Thrapp is a certified ADHD life, relationship, and career coach. He has a servant-based leadership background, and in his 15 years in project management, he has helped hundreds of people find their paths through chaos to find their purpose. Now he uses these skills to help clients between the ages of 25 to 55 who suspect they have or have been diagnosed with ADHD. He works with them to figure out their particular issues by going through a process of self discovery. From the discovery process, he helps them discover how to use their strengths and create systems to manage their ADHD in their life, relationships, and careers. Fabulous. All right. So without further ado, I am. Actually, before I bring him on, I just want to share this point that um, Shane Thrapp is a coach, like I said, and you can learn about his services on his website, www.creatingorderfromchaos.com. And he is all over that social media: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok, TikTok. So he is all over that social media, you guys. So I encourage you to check him out and follow him and learn about his coaching services. Now I will bring him to the stage. Hi, Shane. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I am well. Excuse me. All right. So I brought you back because we are going to continue discussion about relationships. And particularly, I would like to focus on what you call ethical non monogamy. So I wanted you to explain what in the world that is. So I'm gonna, you know the drill.
Hmm.
I'm gonna pass the baton over to you and go ahead and explain.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so let's talk about ethical non-monogamy, also known as consensual non-monogamy. This is kind of a broad term that encompasses any form of relationship. It doesn't have to be sexual; it could also be romantic. That doesn't take the form of like that exclusive monogamous relationship between two people. Some people it's a lifestyle choice. Some people it's just they feel that's who they are. It can be complicated, as any relationship can be, but it also can be hugely rewarding in a lot of different ways. The biggest thing about these relationships is that everybody is aware, everyone is enthusiastic and consenting, and want to be involved in this type of relationship.
All right, so let's break it down. What is it? How does it work?
You find a lot of situations where some people are trying to figure out how their relationships work. And as they get older, they kind of find themselves in these situations where maybe they're chronically cheating, or they're not getting a lot of fulfillment from the relationships that they're in, and they're noticing that there's a lot of needs not being able to be met by just a singular person. And so when you have these kinds of situations, you want to be able to be in a position to follow through with those things in a way that's ethically responsible, and you're not being a lying, cheating asshole. For some people, it's also, there's couples who just, they feel like they need a little bit of extra. There's a little bit of fun that they want to have on the side. And so they want to have, something that they can do in a sexual way with other couples or with other people. And so they just want to kind of add that little spark to their life. And it's not meant to, they don't want to be cheaters, but they also want to be able to have fun with each other. So there's just different styles of ethical non-monogamy or consensual non-monogamy. Polyamory is an example. That's where there's like a, people have like multiple romantic or sexual relationships at the same time. Obviously everyone knows about like threesomes. Everybody knows about swinging. We've seen those quite often. There's hierarchical relationships where it's just a couple who's looking for a third person or maybe a fourth person to get involved. There's also things called quads, where it's 4 people who are involved with each other. Sometimes it's 2 couples. There's also the don't ask, don't tell type of relationships, where while everybody may be aware that there's other people involved, they don't really talk about it outside of those, outside of the 2 or more people that are involved that are within that boundary that they want to keep.
So basically it's, let's put it all out on the table. So basically it's someone who has multiple romantic partners
or sexual,
multiple romantic or sexual partners.
Yep.
Okay. Listen, it's hot topics. Let's call it what it is. So what so I guess the key part is the ethical part, right? So because you talked before about cheating, which is like, because someone might be like, well, isn't that the same as cheating? No, because of the ethical part, meaning that there's a discussion, there's a consensus, there's an agreement about having those multiple partners.
Yes. The boundaries are a big part of the relationship, because you have to set those in place so that everybody is kind of aware of what betrayal is now, because it's kind of easy to dictate what betrayal is within a monogamous relationship. That's you stepping out with somebody else. But whenever it comes to having multiple relationships or multiple partners in different types of relationships, it can get kind of murky as to what is allowed and what is not allowed. For some people, a hard boundary is making sure that everybody involved uses condoms. Another common one that I've seen before is making sure that you don't get somebody else pregnant. When it comes to these kind of situations, you have to be very upfront, and you have to have a very wide open communication style. And that's kind of why, you can't really go into these types of relationships with a relationship that's really rocky, where there's not a lot of trust or there's not a lot of honesty. There's if you've cheated in the past and it's never been healed from there, or if you're kind of dragging people in under duress, where like, well, if I was, I'd stay with you if I was able to be, with these other people, and the other person is just kind of coming along because they don't feel like they have a choice. They don't want to be alone, and this is the best they could do, and that's really shitty. So like, for people who are looking to be in ethical non-monogamous relationships, having that ability to have a strong relationship and having those boundaries is super important. And that's where you can cheat within the realm of that type of relationship by violating those boundaries and doing it intentionally and maliciously.
So now I'm wondering, does this apply to, I think it's polygamy, where you have like multiple husbands or multiple wives?
Yes. I keep forgetting what the female version of that is, but yes, polygamy would be considered a type of ethical non-monogamy. Again, as long as everybody is consensually giving their tacit agreement to be involved in that type of relationship, and there, you know, and it's not like a cultural thing where the position of power is being unfairly used.
Hmm. So, I mean, if we want to be controversial, in the Bible, in the Old Testament, there were several instances of um, of men who
Polygamy.
had, yeah, polygamy, yeah, men who had multiple wives. I know the famous one was David. I think he had like 14 or 15 wives.
Mm-hmm.
It has a presence in the Bible. Um, so so why would someone want to do this? That's a $6 million question. Why is monogamy so difficult?
I kind of want to take one little step back about the Bible part. So earlier, when I mentioned the whole cultural part of that, the issue with the biblical version of polygamy, and also with the Mormon ideal of polygamy, is that it's a contractual obligation between the men involved, and the women don't have a say in who they're given to and who they're sold to, and that is a very very distinct form of oppression against women, and the level of misogyny involved in that because of the treatment of the women involved there is one of the reasons why there's such a huge stigma against open relationships and consensual non-monogamy. So I just wanted to touch on that real quick. Now, to your original question as to why would people do this, you know, I have a client who, for his entire life, he was always in different relationships, always. Like he couldn't stay faithful to anybody, but he didn't want to cheat. And so he would bounce from relationship to relationship. And he met a man who he really cared about. He really, really cared about. But he was very hypersexual, and he needed a level of sexuality where he would be happy and satisfied. And when I say hypersexual, he needed it at least once a day, if not multiple times during the day. And his partner, while at first was very enthusiastic about this and enjoyed it, was not the type of person to be able to maintain that kind of relationship. However, in every other instance of their relationship, they were fantastic. They loved many of the same sports. They enjoyed a lot of the same activities. They enjoyed going to do things. They loved travel. Neither one of them wanted kids. So they just had this really good lifestyle that they both really enjoyed. And they loved each other pretty really a lot. However, the problem came is the man who wasn't very sexual started really dreading sex. And he dreaded it so much that he started developing an aversion to it, because the husband who was hypersexual was very pushy about it. When they came to me because the guy who was hypersexual was also ADHD, and he wanted a lot. He needed help with a lot of the situations that he was going through. And he had a therapist and he had a psychiatrist, and they had kind of started really working on different things. But his therapist was very antagonistic towards his needs for the hypersexuality. However, they happened to read on my website about ethical non-monogamy, and he brought it up in a session one day, and I, of course, I did my spiel, and told him what it was. And he goes, "What does it take to get into that kind of thing?" And I said, "Well, it takes a relationship that's strong enough to do so." And through a pretty, long, drawn out conversation, some of it mediated by me, he and his husband were able to actually start to figure out if this was something that they needed. And eventually that's what happened. He was able to have friends on the side where he could go see them on a regular basis and get his needs met. And his husband was able to eventually, through therapy, develop a healthier attitude towards sex now that he wasn't being constantly pressured into it every day. And this really helped them out a lot. And the husband, who wasn't really able to get into wasn't really into sex, was also able to find friends of his own where he could go out and have fun in different ways while his husband was off with somebody else. And so they actually wound up developing different relationships outside of their own that were really meaningful. And I think they eventually wound up having a third that came in and lived with them.
So, with that example, there were no feelings of jealousy or being possessive.
Oh no, there's always feelings of jealousy. We are too ingrained in the concept of ownership of our relationships, of the other person involved in our relationship. It's too culturally a part of us as who we are. But the thing about jealousy is it's rooted in insecurity. And that's why I said earlier that you have to have a relationship that's built on communication, honesty, and trust. And we talked about that in our last session. And the reason that is because if you're feeling insecure and you can't talk to your partner about it, or if you're afraid to talk to your partner about it, that insecurity starts manifesting jealousy. And if you keep letting that go, it keeps getting worse and worse and worse because their anxieties start getting involved. And once all of that happens, you have this like downhill spiral of just self-loathing, questioning if the person loves them, questioning if they're not happy with you, if they're going to split up with you. So there's always those issues with jealousy. Now, the solution for this, how to manage this jealousy, is to understand that you can talk to your partner about anything, that you can bring these fears and these concerns to your partner, and your partner listens to you, and they take what you're saying and they understand it, and they really try to figure out between the two of you, maybe three of you or four of you, how your needs can be met, and not just sexually, but also emotionally and physically, mentally, and what the people involved can do to alleviate some of that. And it also means that the other person involved has to really have that ability to show and speak the love languages of their partner so that they're able to make sure that their partner isn't wanting for anything that they normally would give them. And it just there's a lot of give and take, there's a lot of compromise, there's a lot of communication, and it all takes a lot of work to kind of break past that. But once you do break past that, there comes a different emotion, which is called compersion, which is the joy of seeing your partner with one or other people and gaining joy and happiness from their other partners. And it's kind of it's literally the polar opposite of jealousy.
So I guess I'm confused because if you want to have multiple romantic or sexual partners, I'm trying to understand why you still want a why do you still want a stable partner? Like in that example you gave, the hypersexual man has his people on the side, then you have the asexual man has his people on the side. So I don't understand why the two men are still holding on to each other? Like, why not just, we're just friends and that's it?
Some relationships do turn into that. There's a thing called relationship anarchy, where a person is just with whoever they want to be with. But there's a different type, which is called hierarchical relationship, which is what this one was, where it is essentially a main couple, and then they have other relationships on the side. Now, why did they want to do that? Because they really enjoyed being around each other. They loved each other in a fundamental way that really was a lot deeper than just the sexual aspect of a relationship. And there were so many different characteristics of the person that they were with that they didn't never want to see themselves with anybody else in certain ways. And so that's where you see a hierarchical relationship come into play. And that's really important, because sometimes, like I said earlier, the relationships turn into something else. And that it takes a certain kind of emotional maturity to kind of look at the relationship and see how it needs to evolve. And that's, again, why we have to have that honest communication and that trust in each other, and the understanding that, it might change. It might move into something different, or it might get, even more intense, especially if you bring in another person. There's a lot of, in our country, there's a lot of benefits to being married. And, there's a lot of benefits to having multiple people living in the same household. And so having those benefits between, 2, 3, 4, 5 people can really make a serious impact on your life. And I've heard relationships where there's 4 adults in the same household, all 4 of them making over $100,000 a year. And when you think about that, and you think about the fact that they're kind of pulling their resources together, and that there's kids involved where they're also being taken care of, not just by a mother and father, but also by others, like, we'll call them aunts and uncles, not really friends. But the kids are able to get a lot more attention. Remember, it takes a village to raise a child. It's just kind of like having more of a larger extended family that's in the household. It's just the different type of relationship between the family members.
So does this include orgies?
I mean, orgies would be a type of, like, it's thinking about swinging and things of that nature. Orgies would be considered a type of ethical non-monogamy, because everybody's consenting, everybody's having fun, everybody's enjoying themselves, and everybody's aware of what's going on, hopefully.
So I guess when so when I originally heard this topic, I have to admit I was judgmental. Part of me was just like, ew, that's so gross. So there's no concern about like STDs, STIs. Like, I guess a part of me is cringing because it's like no one's afraid of what you're bringing in.
Well, is anybody afraid of somebody who's dating multiple different people during their dating season, where they got 4 or 5 girls that they're seeing at on a regular basis? In a group, like an orgy environment and everything like that, why are condoms used? You know what I mean? Because people are concerned that there's STDs, STIs. The thing about ethical non-monogamy and consensual non-monogamy, remember we were talking about boundaries earlier. There is a higher likelihood of people who are in those relationships to have less chances for STDs and STIs. I think it's a 40% less chance, because the people involved don't have to hide that they're having relationships with other people. They don't have to hide that they're having sex with other people. So they can sit here and have condoms chilling around and in easy reach and things of that nature. It's okay for them to have condoms in their purse, because their husband isn't going to lose his mind, because he knows that she's being faithful to the boundaries that they've set with each other. And so what you see in ethical non-monogamous relationships is a less likelihood for having unprotected sex and things of that nature.
So what about, I'm just also thinking, again, I'm being judgmental, like, is there a calendar? Like, like, okay, like your Monday, Tuesday, um, and then person that's person A, person B is Wednesday, Thursday. Like, is there a calendar? Like, is it, scheduling on Google Calendar? Like, what?
Welcome to the actual difficult part of ethical non-monogamy. All right, so let's talk about that. So ethical non-monogamy, whenever you have multiple partners and everything, you want everybody to be aware of the situation because you don't want that insecurity. And so everybody kind of needs to be aware of what's going on. Now, in your simpler relationships, such as like don't ask, don't tell, the guy or girl are going out of town. They want to be able to go to the bar and pick up somebody if they feel like it. You know what I mean? There's no real pressure there. There's no lying about it. They just want that. And it's easy enough. You already have it on your calendar. Hey, he's in this, he's in San Diego for 5 days, there, done. The husband or wife can sit here and say, oh, I'm gonna have a friend come over that weekend as well. That's an easy enough to do it. Whenever you have a situation where there's multiple people involved and there's kind of like a polycule that's being formed. A polycule is kind of where you have your main sections here. By the way, this is my fidget spinner, everybody. If y'all see this, it's nothing crazy. But you have your main people here involved in this little section right here. But then each one of them has little branches off of people that they're dating. And sometimes that can just kind of expand out into this like large web, this polycule of different people who are all kind of involved. And when you have a situation like that, the core group of people with boundaries wants to be aware of what's going on. So if Tom is married to Kate and Tom has 3 different girls or guys that he's seeing on the side, if he plans on going on a date, that kind of needs to be communicated to the other people involved so that there's no mixing up the schedules. And so guess what? Google Calendar is your best friend here, people. Your iCalendar and your Apple phones, it's your best friend. Because then you can have those kind of communications like, hey, I'm supposed to go on a date with Mary Sue this weekend, and I just want to let you know, did you have any plans before I schedule it? And then the partner can see here and say, oh, no, I'm good. Actually, I wanted to go see Mickey over here, and we wanted to go on a date for something. I was just about to talk to you about it. And so there's this kind of time management system that you have to put in place. There's these people management systems that you have to put in place. And as the polycule gets larger and larger, the better you have to communicate, the better you have to talk about things and be willing to sit here and say, oh, crap, I fucked up. I know that we were supposed to go do this thing, but I already had something scheduled. What do you want to do here? And then kind of work out the compromise or work out the solution to the problem. And so there's a lot of opportunity for, personal growth and development. We talked about earlier that, it takes that honesty and trust and communication and boundaries to set into these relationships. Well, you also start learning how to develop emotional maturity and communicate, multiple people communication. So people management and time management abilities within this. And so eventually you're able to have this level of maturity throughout everything that when you leave the relationships or go into other relationships, you're able to do more. You're more independent. You're more self-confident about who you are and what you need from other people because you've already kind of learned what kind of needs and wants that you have with the different people who are involved.
And another thought just occurred to me too. I know you said that, people in these types of relationships, they're more likely to wear condoms and use protection, but that's sexual contact. What about kissing? What about skin to skin transmission? What you know th- there's okay, you're more likely to wear condoms and birth control and all that, but what about like simple diseases that can be transmitted by kissing, like mono or herpes? Like this again, that the concern is not there in these relationships.
I mean, no more than the same concern for people who are just dating. You think about the girl who's just not ready to settle down, and she's kind of dating the field, right? She goes to the club one night, she makes out with this other guy. She goes to another club 3 days later, she kisses another couple of people, and then she goes to another club that Sunday for drag night, and she meets a totally hot chick there, and she's kissing her. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, so there's a lot of dangers there as far as that's concerned. The thing is, though, when you are in these kind of relationships and you are aware of those kind of dangers and those kind of things that can come up, you're also more likely to go to a doctor about stuff like that. You're more likely to see somebody out there who you can make sure that you're getting checked out on a regular basis, making sure that you don't have anything that's crazy going on in the various places. And since you are likely to see a doctor, you're able to get treated sooner, so there's less likelihood of spreading anything. And of course, again, if you are already in this kind of frame of mind where you have this understanding about what sex is and what the different STIs and everything are concerned, you're aware of what herpes is, and you're aware of what some of the other STIs are, and what you can and cannot do after that point, and what it means to be in a relationship with you. And so then you can also now be open and honest about what you deal with, and communicate that with the people around you, and those people who can handle it will handle it. Those people who can't won't.
So is there an understanding of let me put it this way. Is there like a written contract, or does it you know does what am I trying to say? Does legal implications get involved? Like, is there, what's his name called it, a love contract? So is there a contract? Is it verbal? Is it written? Does it get formal anyway?
There's no legal options for people who are in ethical non-monogamous or consensual non-monogamous relationships that are kind of in that realm. However, there's nothing to stop people from getting a officiant and who can wed them, and everybody involved kind of have a serious type of relationship like that. And there are legal protections you can get through a lawyer, where you essentially do build up a contract as far as your possessions, who owns what, and how is it split if there's something that happens within the relationship. There are obviously legal considerations to take into consideration when you have children involved, especially if there's multiple mothers and fathers who, when the split happens, may want visitation rights, may want to have financial considerations. They want to be able to help support the child after the fact. And, those kind of have to all be kind of taken care of on a case-by-case basis.
So speaking of children, you might have brought it up before, but what if there are children involved? How do you explain all of these relationships to children?
Kids are pretty resilient, if you sit here and, obviously you don't tell little Timmy, who's 3 years old, that, mommy has 14 boyfriends, you don't tell little Janie that, daddy goes and sees 9 women on the side. But what you do say is, if they're, you take the same considerations you would as if you were dating as a single person, and you wouldn't be bringing home, every Tom, Dick, and Harry that you're messing with and you're talking to. You would bring home the people that you feel are safe around your kids, the people who are going to be in their lives and have proven that they're honest and trustworthy, and that they can be mature around your kids and have adult conversations without really cluing those kids who are too young to grasp any type of relationship outside of mommy daddy kind of relationship. And they're friends. They're people who come and hang out on a regular basis. There just happens to be other components to the relationship. Now, if the kids are a little bit older and they understand that there's loving and romantic and sexual relationships, so age appropriate conversations can be had. And at that point, it's just kind of, that's what mommy and daddy does. You know what I mean? There's no, they'll, of course, they may talk about it to their friends and their families, and that's the big danger right there. Is like, do they get vilified by those around them for having mommy and daddy, and Johnny and Maria and stuff like that in their household? But at the same time, they're going to get bullied. A lot of kids are going to get bullied for a lot of things. Think about same-sex relationships and how kids have to deal with that kind of stuff. So the same way that you have those tough conversations with kids at that age, you have the same kind of conversations when it comes to these relationships, because they also include, or may include, other same-sex or bisexual or or people in the relationships who are transgender, or or asexual or agender. And you have to have those conversations so the kids know what to expect and how to respond, and how, who to communicate it with if they're being bullied and things of that nature.
So now I'm wondering if, as you were talking, it occurred to me that, oh, this is such a man thing, like this is something, women don't, I mean, if they do, it's not that much, this is something that I would expect a man to do, So do you think there is a gender favoritism when it comes to ethical non-monogamy?
I am trying to remember what the statistic is, but if I'm not mistaken, it's actually almost even split. Because the split between women and men who cheat is about equal. I think it was 42% of women cheat, 48% of men cheat. That actually runs just about true for the split between people who are in ethical non-monogamous relationships. And, it's just because, while the genders are different, they also still need things. And it's very difficult to find a single person who can meet every one of your needs. And, that's why so many people seem to have issues with their relationships that they're in. They're looking for that one person who can meet all of their needs. However, as we have learned from people like Dan Savage, a relationship expert, sometimes you had to find that person who's that 0.6, 0.75 that just kind of round up to the one. Well, what about that 25% and 30% or 40% of what you need, right? Think of bisexual people or people who are pansexual. Should they completely eliminate a huge chunk of who they are just because they're in a same sex or different sex relationship? Should they ignore the other aspect of their sexuality just because they are with somebody at this point? I mean, that's not fair for them to have to do that. So having these understandings that people are very complicated and dynamic people who may change over time, then we also need to consider that as those changes happen, other needs are going to come up, and those needs are also going to be met. But if you're in a relationship where you really care about each other and you've really developed a strong foundation for a really solid relationship, you don't want to destroy it by cheating. So having the option to get those needs met while at the same time also honoring the trust and honor that your partner has put into you, these are hugely beneficial for a lot of people who are involved in them.
So now, so I'm wondering if, I gotta think about this. So,
and it was at this point that she realized ethical non-monogamy might be a thing.
I mean, I didn't think it was so. My brain just froze, but I didn't think it was so like out there. Like I didn't even I knew what it was, but I didn't know there was a word to it.
Right.
You understand what I mean?
Yeah, well, look at it like this. And there was a 2016 study done, and they discovered that 20% of single U.S. adults talk about being in some sort of ethical non-monogamous relationship. When you look at that number, that's a huge number when you look at the number of people in the United States. It's estimated that between 4 and 5% of people actually actively participate in ethical non-monogamous relationships. That's more than the entire LGBT community combined. 51% of people under 30 reported that they, had experimented with ethical non-monogamy in the past and would be willing to do so in the future. And that was in 2016. This is 6 years later. The numbers as younger people are getting older and older and more aware of what ethical non-monogamy is and consensual non-monogamy is, the more likelihood that those numbers are going to do nothing but increase, especially as older people die off and the older cultural definitions of relationships being only monogamous start to slowly start to erode and get redefined into just loving relationships. You look at Cuba. Cuba actually now has the ability to be married to multiple partners, and it's legal in Cuba of all places. You know what I mean? So you got to look at the cultural stigma of ethical non-monogamy is slowly being eroded away as the older people who have a little bit more closed minds are either being convinced or they're dying. And so we'll see probably a large explosion of what ethical and consensual non-monogamy starts to become in our nation not too long from now.
So what does this mean? Is this the end of monogamy? Is this the end of marriage? Is this the end of traditional relationships? Is it all over as we know it?
No, because not everybody's meant to be in that kind of relationship. There's a lot of people who can't get past the jealousy. There's a lot of people who can't deal with the time management, the people management aspect of it. There's a lot of people who just don't want to, honestly. Like, oh my God, it's so exhausting to sit here and think about being in that many relationships or having to deal with that kind of scheduling conflicts and, always wondering, if your partner did follow through with the boundaries. There's a lot of people out there who aren't going to be moving into this type of relationship. But for those people who are looking forward to that and are mature enough to do so, they'll start sliding into that direction and they'll start slowly going through that way. Does that mean the end of monogamy? No. There's too many people who enjoy that and want that. And, and there's no right or wrong way to be in these types of relationships. There's nothing wrong with monogamy and there's nothing wrong with ethical non-monogamy. It's two sides of the same coin. It's just about having the freedom to be in the type of relationship that you want to be in and getting your needs met and making sure that your partner are getting their needs met, even if you're not the one being able to do so. And even if they're not the ones being able to do it for you, these don't have to be sexual in nature. They don't have to be romantic in nature. They can just be what they are. And, just kind of allow them to be, enjoy their lives together, however they decide to do so.
Wait, so I'm wondering, like the friends with benefits concept, does that count?
Yeah, as long as everybody's aware and understanding and happy to be involved, yeah.
Okay, sorry, there's a loud siren outside. Okay, all right, so we're having fun, but we gotta wind things down. So any words of wisdom that you would like to share with our audience? Any final words?
Yeah, like here's the thing about relationships. The length of the relationship, a successful relationship isn't one that lasts forever, right? It's not, till death do us part, and you being able to make it there. You didn't win any prize there. A successful relationship is one where everybody involved enjoyed themselves. They enjoyed the journey together. And whenever they leave the relationship, everybody leaves the relationship being better people from it. And that's a successful relationship. The length of time doesn't matter. A one night stand is just that where everybody walked away from it and are happy and they're better for it is just as impactful as a person who's been with his wife for 50 years. So the key to a relationship is to enjoy it while it lasts and enjoy it with the person that you're with and be open to how everyone's needs to be met.
Sorry, one last question. So I think you mentioned before about with the two male partners that the hypersexual one had ADHD. So is it common for people with ADHD, or well, I'll keep it neutral. People with ADHD to be in ethical, non-monogamous relationships? Is it something common that people with ADHD do?
I see a lot of people with ADHD who are in all kinds of different relationships. To be completely truthful, same with people who are on the autistic spectrum, and same with people who are in the LGBT T spectrum. And the reason I bring all of that up is because those types, the type of people who have kind of started to understand who they were, right, who they are, and understand their sexuality, their gender identity, and understand the different types of relationships and things like that they are. These people all kind of have a lot in common as far as having to think differently. They feel differently about who they are. They feel differently about how they process things. They're more open to doing different things. They have a lot of ability to sit here and see things in a different light. And with ADHD specifically, you see a lot of people who have an issue with the attention span, right? How long they're able to be with a person before things have to change in a certain way. And for some people, they're not able to be in long-term steady relationships. They don't have the capability to last after 8 months or a year or 2 years or along those lines, simply because they don't have the energy after a while to be able to maintain the same focus that they brought to the relationship at first. And so the relationship has to evolve or change at that point. And it can evolve into something a lot more serious, where the person who doesn't have ADHD, or the other person involved, they are able to keep up with the person and able to maintain that level of intimacy and that level of communication and honesty and trust throughout it, and understand how it changes and evolve and move along with the relationship. And then there's those people who can't keep up with that, but don't feel any they don't feel any um, there's no maliciousness to it, right? So the person who had ADHD communicated to them up front, hey, I know how my ADHD works. This is how my relationships normally work, and I just need you to be open and honest about if I'm not giving you the attention that you need, or if that new relationship energy kind of starts dying away and you need attention that I'm not able to give at a certain point. And we have to be open to having those conversations and being honest with each other. And I need to kind of break things down to me fairly simply as to what your expectations are for a relationship. You don't want to be getting into a relationship with somebody and you're looking for 50 years, and they sit here and say, oh, I'm capable of a year at most. You that if you sign up for that that price of admission and you're not willing to pay it after a while, you're the one that's kind of shitty here. It all goes back to just the honesty and trust, and being upfront at the very beginning of things about who you are and what your needs are, and then communicating those effectively to the people you're getting involved with. And that may be difficult at first. It may be difficult to figure out who that is. That's where people like me come into play. As an ADHD life coach and relationship coach, I can help you kind of understand how your ADHD affects you, not just in your life, but also in your relationships. Not just in trying to figure out, day-to-day living, but also what you need from a relationship. What are your needs? What are your expectations? What are things that you can compromise on? What are things that you cannot compromise on? How to explain it to a partner who you're already with that you may need to have some sort of adjustment to the relationship so that certain needs can be met. How to communicate with your partner to find out if they have needs that you're not able to meet but need to be met. And that's kind of where a coach comes into play, and having those conversations and being able to have somebody who can mediate between you and another person who understands ethical non-monogamy, because a lot of relationship therapists out there do not, or they have a really shitty view of it. They kind of turn out really judgmental. They talk about how the statistics for open marriages, are, utter chaos, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You you need somebody who's open-minded and able to communicate effectively. And that's where, kind of, like I said, an ADHD life coach or a relationship coach like myself can come into play.
All right, fabulous. And with that said, all right, you guys. So, Shane, thank you so much for having this discussion with me. And for our audience, again, you can take advantage of Shane's coaching services, ADHD, relationships. He does it all, and a life coach as well. You can check out his website, www.creatingorderfromchaos.com. And again, you can find him all over social media, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn. So definitely follow him on all of his accounts. This information will be provided to you in the description. And for the ones watching this on video right now, it is at the bottom of your screen. But again, for everybody, in case you forget, you need a reminder, all of this information will be provided to you in the description. So I encourage you to take advantage of Shane's resources and his coaching services. So if you need a coaching, if you need a coach, ADHD, life, relationships, definitely hit up Shane. His information is at your fingertips. All right, Shane, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I had a lot of fun.
Awesome. All right, you guys, it is just you and me. Ooh, my voice is going. All right, so you guys, we have reached the ending of our episode. Thank you so much for joining us today. Wherever you are listening to the sound of my voice, whatever platform that is, whether video or audio, I encourage you to check out our platform for other videos and clips or other audio and clips. And don't forget to subscribe. And while you're at it, let us know what you thought about this episode by leaving a comment in the comment section or in the comment thread. I would love to know what you thought about this episode. And as a reminder, this web series is a production of A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. So if you are looking for tutoring services for yourself, for your children, if you just want to know what we have to offer, visit our website. Our website is www.astepaheadtutoringservices.com. And you can also find us all over social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Eventbrite, WhatsApp. So we are all over social media, and I encourage you to follow us on all of our accounts. Aha. And I also want to let you know that we're offering a special discount right now. When you reach out to us and you let us know that you heard about us from Hot Topics, we will give you 15% off 6 hours of tutoring. I am going to say that again. When you reach out to us and you say, hey, I heard about you from that Hot Topic show, we will give you 15% off 6 hours of tutoring right there. Boom. So there is no excuse for you to not reach out to us. And finally, I encourage you to sign up for our email list and our texting list. Stay in touch with us about all things that are A Step Ahead Tutoring Services, and you will receive exclusive offers, promotions, special stuff, everything, everything exclusive when you sign up for our email list and our texting list. That information is in the description as well. So I encourage you to do all of these things. All right, and there is one final message before I officially end.
Hey there, have you heard of us? We're a small team of tutors here at A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. We believe that education and information should be accessible to everyone, regardless of income, race, or creed. We're dedicated to making this happen, but we need your help. Please consider making a donation to our company. No amount is too small. Your donation will allow us tutors to remain employed, offer free and low-cost services, put on productions like this web series, and reach out to families nationwide. With your help, we can tackle the academic challenges of our students and the emotional, mental, and behavioral changes that result from these challenges. As a bonus, we can improve our communities in the process. Support us today. Send your donation by Cash App to $ASATS 2013, by PayPal or Venmo to @ASATS 2013, or by Zelle to success@astepaheadtutoringservices.com. For our Facebook Live viewers, you can also send us a star. Your support means a lot to us. Please note, we're a for-profit company. We're not a charity. Your donation may not be tax deductible. Please consult a tax professional.
All right, you guys, and that's it. I, Gabrielle, will see you at the next episode. Thank you again for joining me, or us. Thank you for joining us. I look forward to seeing you at the next episode. So now I am signing off. Bye.